Chapter 141, The Gift She Gave Him. Gu Jingze said, "Fine. I'll get someone to take it tomorrow." Yes, good. Mo Hiling wanted him to come personally but thought that she should not be so clingy. Thus, she controlled herself. If she wanted to be better than Lin Che, she had to endure. Mo Hiling said into the phone, "I didn't think that you would bring Lin Che to tonight's charity gala. This was your first time bringing someone to an event, do you know that? You never brought me in the past." Gu Jingze hesitated and then said, "But I didn't have anyone to bring in the past. You never liked attending dinners either, did you?" Who says I didn't? I thought you merely wanted to keep a low profile," Mo Hiling said pitifully. Gu Jingze replied, "I like keeping a low profile but I never said that we couldn't attend events. Furthermore, you should have told me beforehand since you like it. Otherwise, how would I know?" Mo Hiling was filled with regret. Did she really misunderstand him? Thinking that he didn't like it, she never let him take her out to events. "Jingze, I just feel that you're too indulgent with Lin Che. Don't be unhappy when I say this since I'm voicing it out for your own good. Lin Che is already Mrs. Gu but she doesn't really seem to care too much now. She doesn't know how to be cultured and well-mannered and she is even boasting on her Weibo. It's a little too much. You should tell her how to be a proper Mrs. Gu." Gu Jingze asked, "Why can't she post on Weibo? Isn't it bad to be so boastful? I don't see anything wrong with it." Mo Hiling was stunned. In that moment, she seemed to no longer know Gu Jingze anymore. Gu Jingze continued, "I have no opinions regarding these things. Anyway, she's not posting to boast. She's just posting for the fun of it." Quote. Unable to convince him, Mo Hiling said angrily, "In any case, I'm just being nice by telling you. If you don't want to listen, then forget it." Gu Jingze never knew that Mo Hiling cared about all these. In the past, he thought Mo Hiling was simple and kept a low profile. He always thought that she liked being like that. But seeing how she was now, there were a lot of little thoughts in Mo Hiling's heart that he actually never knew about. The next day, Gu Jingze sent someone to collect the tie clip. He wrote a note to thank Mo Hiling for the gift. When he received it, he opened the clear box to look. Mo Hiling often gave him presents in the past but they were usually not very practical. He had seen one too many and roughly knew what they were. So since a long time ago, he would chuck all the gifts in a cupboard in the corner of his room. Some were never even opened. Lin Che spent the day at the company meeting the co-stars in her upcoming show. After briefly getting to know them and preparing for the upcoming scene, she left with Yu Minmin. Yu Minmin said to Lin Che, "I saw the announcement of the show that Gu Jingze is acting in. The female lead is Qin Wanwan." "Really? I have heard Qin Wanwan mention that she was going to act with Gu Jingze." Yu Minmin remarked, "It looks like Qin Wanwan's next show will be good. None of Gu Jingze's shows have bad reception. The filmmakers are strong too." "Yes. But we're not far off either. The head director for this show is also synonymous within the classic dramas. We might even have a chance to compete for the TV Drama Award. You should go back and prepare." "Yes, I will, Sister Yu." Back home, Lin Che entered the bedroom and saw a delicate box placed on the dressing table. Her heart skipped a beat. She thought that Gu Jingze had a gift for her but when she opened the box, she soon realized. Inside was a delicate tie clip. She recalled that this was at the auction last night. Because it was so tiny and going for a few million, it left a deep impression on her. She heard that it was created by some very famous designer. After the designer died, his creations became very valuable and expensive. However, it was obviously a man's accessory. Lin Che quickly found a card beside it. Although she did not want to see, the card had very simple handwriting that could not be avoided. It was signed with the letter M below. Obviously, the person who gave this was Mo Hiling. Lin Che heard noise from the outside and quickly closed the box back. She could not hide the surprise in her eyes but she pretended not to know anything. She could only do that because she thought it was a normal thing for Mo Hiling to give him gifts. However, perhaps she was still affected by Mo Hiling's words previously, so she still felt gloomy on the inside. At night, she skipped dinner and asked Shen Yoren out. Together with Shen Yoren, they headed to the club that Qin Wanwan took her to previously. Shen Yoren had never been here before. She grabbed Lin Che and said, "This looks very high-end." Lin Che said, "I heard no outsiders know about this place. This is a regular place for some in the circle. No wonder I see some people who look familiar. They look like celebrities," Shen Yoren said. Lin Che said, "I've only been here a couple of times too, but there should be many celebrities here." Shen Yoren looked around excitedly while Lin Che sat there. She felt rather down, so she drank more alcohol. "Yoren, tell me, why am I so stupid? Why do I not know anything?" Lin Che asked. Shen Yoren replied, "No way. You're not stupid. I think you're very good. That's because you're stupid like me. Hey, I'm comforting you. Don't drag me down with you." Lin Che then told her about how Gu Jingze received a gift from his girlfriend. Shen Yoren listened and fumed, "Damn. How is that acceptable? You're the wife now." "Yes, and that's the girlfriend who he truly loves. I can never compare to her. And what Mo Hilling said was right. Actually, I don't match up to him. I'm just thick-skinned, so I never felt that way." "Hey, you can't just give up like that. If she gives him a gift, you should give him one too." Lin Che looked at Shen Yoren, "What can I give? I don't think I can give him anything. Gu Jingze doesn't lack anything and he doesn't need anything either. And I don't have as much money to squander as Mo Hilling, giving gifts that are worth millions." Shen Yoren laughed, "Heh. When it comes to giving, it's not about how much it costs, but rather the thought behind it. If you can't," she inched closer to Lin Che, "just give yourself to him. Wouldn't that do the trick? Get lost." Shen Yoren's eyes moved as she suddenly thought of something, "Just give him a surprise. How about this? I'll give you something tomorrow. Heh. You can use that to give Gu Jingze a present. He will definitely like it." "What?" Lin Che wanted to continue asking, but she heard someone call out from behind. "Mrs. Gu, what are you doing here?" That person was Chen Yucheng. When Shen Yoren saw him, her face darkened. Chen Yucheng pretended not to see her and went straight to Lin Che's side. He asked her, "Where's President Gu?" Lin Che looked at Chen Yucheng in puzzlement. How come you're here?" Accompanying Chen Yucheng was a lady who was all dolled up. She seemed to be very close to him. "I often come here to have fun. I should be asking Mrs. Gu that question. Why are you here?" Chapter 142, Take this woman away. Lin Che said, "Isn't this a regular place for celebrities only? I heard there are no stray dogs allowed." Heh. Chen Yucheng laughed and said, "I know that many people in your circle often come here. That is why I like to come here too." He raised his brow, implying something else. "He was here to chase after stars." Shen Yoren rolled her eyes. "What kind of man was he?" Shen Yoren said, "Little Che, that is why it is a saying that all men are the same. They are all the same, visual, perverted and lustful. You won't be wrong from listening to me." Heh. Chen Yucheng looked at Shen Yoren at the side. "What do you mean by all men are the same? You sound as if you have met many men." Shen Yoren retorted, "Hey, how would you know if I never met a lot of men?" Chen Yucheng sized up Shen Yoren, "From the way you look, don't tell me that your relationship experience is not obvious enough." "Idiot, are you calling me ugly?" Chen Yucheng replied, "I'm just not used to telling lies." "You, as if you're good looking. At least you still have the ability to tell." Quote. Shen Yoren wanted to continue, but Lin Che quickly pulled her back down. "He makes money by using his mouth. You're not going to win if you argue with him. And why are you two fighting in the first place?" Just then, the beauty at Chen Yucheng's side tugged at him. Chen Yucheng told her to wait for him inside. He then sat down beside Lin Che and said, "I see that madam isn't in a very good mood." Lin Che looked at Chen Yucheng. "Well, how is Gu Jingze's illness now?" Chen Yucheng said, "Oh, it still needs to be controlled with medication. However, it seems like there's no problem for you two. You have been with President Gu for so long, but I have yet to see anything happen." Lin Che asked, "Then when do you think he will recover from it?" "Recover? I believe that as long as it can be controlled, it doesn't matter if he can't completely recover. But there isn't any treatment for a full recovery at the moment either. Even though we poured in so much money for research every year, we still haven't found a cure. Oh, Lin Che said disappointingly. She rested her chin on the counter. What's wrong, madam? Nothing, I just thought. Sigh, since you are Gu Jingze's psychologist, you should know everything, right? About our relationship. Indeed, whenever he comes over for treatment, he tells me everything. I just thought that he and Miss Mo are so close and I don't fit in the middle. If his illness really becomes better, perhaps the Gu family will stop forcing him to be with me, right? Chen Yucheng nearly spat out his drink. What's wrong? Is it bad being with President Gu? She was really strange. If it were other people, they'd gladly sleep if it was with Gu Jingze. Why was she not happy about it? Lin Che said, it's nothing. I just, every prince must have a beautiful princess. I want to be able to help fulfill their wish sooner. Chen Yucheng felt that this matter was too serious. He said to Lin Che, I don't know about anything else, but I know this. The way he treats you is completely different from the way he treats Miss Mo. Don't you think he actually treats you very well? Of course I know, but that's because he's a good person. He feels obliged to be nice to me only because he's with me. Chen Yucheng thought speechlessly, this Lin Che. He didn't know what Gu Jingze liked about her. Was it her foolishness? That was really silly. Had she never heard outside opinions on Gu Jingze? He was a proper, good-hearted man, but he was also ruthless. That was because proper manners were useless business. Perhaps she really had no clue how Gu Jingze normally treated others, so she felt that it was normal of him to be nice to her. Chen Yucheng left her to continue drinking while he hid in a corner and hastily made a phone call. President Gu. I'm still taking my medicine, you don't need to supervise me. Ah, President Gu, you've been so curt to me recently. That's right. But I'm not calling you this time because of you. Do you want to know who I met at the Purple Club? I don't want to know. He just knew that he was not the type who would treat everybody kindly. Oh, then I'll continue having fun with Madam here. Lin Che. Ah, yes. Beep, beep, beep. Lin Che was still drinking. She drank so much until she felt giddy. She didn't even know who came up beside her. In a few seconds, a group of men lined the area and blocked it. Gu Jingze saw Lin Che sprawled on the counter and immediately called for his men to carry her. Looking at Lin Che, her face was filled with sorrow and her brows were tightly furrowed. Gu Jingze also hesitated slightly before coldness flashed across his face. He carried Lin Che and swiftly left the place. Shen Yoren, on the other hand, watched depressingly as they left. She jumped up and said, Hey, is anyone going to pay the bill? I didn't even drink that much. Lin Che drank everything. You guys can't just leave like that. She could not afford the drinks here. From behind, Chen Yucheng looked at Shen Yoren speechlessly. It was not known when exactly he ended up beside her. Enough, stop yelling. The bill will be paid for by Gu Jingze. Shen Yoren turned around to see Chen Yucheng's contemptuous face, but she did not care. Why? I can't afford it. Even if you nail me to the ground here, I won't be able to afford it. Unlike a certain someone who is another person's lackey and uses their money to chase after girls. Humph, you think it's easy being a lackey? You need a certain IQ too, but of course, someone of your caliber won't understand. Hey, you. Enough, don't yell. Do you want me to send you home? Chen Yucheng asked. Shen Yoren heard this and thought that this was great. She could save some money since she hadn't found a decent job. She needed money. Okay, she quickly agreed. Chen Yucheng looked at her and said, so you see, there are benefits in being a lackey. You get a car to drive and money to spend, get it? Chapter 143, I'm not letting you leave. For the sake of a free ride home, Shen Yoren decided not to pick a fight with him. She humbly got in the car and soon reached home. When she alighted, Shen Yoren then pulled a face at Chen Yucheng and said, being a lackey may give you a car and money, but you still had to send me back. Ha ha ha. She immediately ran inside. Chen Yucheng could not chase after her in time. He could only watch her run into the lobby and shut the gate forcefully. Sitting in the car, he mumbled, "What a fast runner." Shen Yoren entered and immediately was pressed by her own mother. "Ah, you scared me, Mom," Shen Yoren exclaimed. Her mother pulled her towards the window and pointed down at the car that just drove off. She asked, "Who just sent you home?" Behind her mother, her sister Shen Yulin chimed in, "Yeah, sis. Who was that? Why did that person send you home? I saw that the car was a Porsche too. When did you get to know such a big shot? Why didn't you tell us?" Shen Yoren looked at her own mother and sister speechlessly. "It's just a friend sending me back." "You're not dating?" "Of course not, she and Chen Yucheng dating. She must be mad." Disappointed, her mother let her go. "I knew it. A rich person like that won't fancy you. You'd better go for matchmaking." On the other hand, Shen Yulin jumped around and said, "Sis, since that's not your boyfriend, you can introduce me. If you can't handle him, I can give it a try." "Exactly. Does he have a girlfriend? If he doesn't, you can introduce your sister. She's 20 years old already, she can date. Partners must be found early or otherwise, all the good ones will get snatched up. He has plenty of women. You guys can give up on that thought." Shen Yoren could not stand the money-grubbing mother and daughter pair anymore. She quickly went into her own room and remembered that she still needed to prepare a gift for that silly Lin Che the next day. She excitedly turned on her computer. On the other side, Gu Jingze brought Lin Che home. When they entered the house, he made everybody leave and single-handedly brought her into the bedroom. He laid Lin Che on the bed and took a wet towel to wipe her face. He looked at Lin Che's face, which was all red from drinking. Seeing that she wasn't noticing, Gu Jingze bent down and kissed her forehead. Then, he thought of how this woman actually went out to drink by herself. He got angry and knocked her head. Lin Che winced and woke up. She opened her eyes and upon seeing Gu Jingze, she frowned and pushed him away. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che in puzzlement. "Are you playing drunk with me again?" "Bad person, I don't want you coming over," Lin Che said. Gu Jingze's face darkened. "How am I bad?" Lin Che said, "You're just a bad person. You're always bullying me." Gu Jingze thought, if she said that, then he would always want to bully her. He patiently replied, "Silly, that's not bullying. That's me adoring you." Lin Che was still in a daze and did not really hear what he said. She pushed him with all her drunken might as if she was venting her unhappiness. "Let go of me, get out. I don't want to be with you." "All right, Lin Che, what's wrong?" Lin Che angrily pushed away his hand. "You have a woman you love, why do you still want to provoke me? You're bullying me." Gu Jingze froze. Lin Che held up one hand and pinched his cheek. Because she was drunk, it was as if she was in a dream. Her footsteps were airy and her body was extending. She could no longer differentiate between reality and a dream. She could only rely on her instincts. Gu Jingze was right in front of her eyes. She looked at his devilish face and in that moment, she felt lucky indeed. People could not touch a man like this even if they wanted to. And yet, he was right in front of her every day. However, she was not lucky either. After meeting Gu Jingze, which other man could make her feel this way? She was afraid that if she left him, she would never fall for anyone else. Then why did she meet him? She met him but could not have him. When she had him, it was only temporary. If his arrival was merely a passing one, then wouldn't it be better to have never met at all? Then perhaps she would be leading a normal life and married to a normal man instead of how things were now. Bastard, gangster, bad person. Gu Jingze, when are we getting a divorce? Give me a time frame. Lin Che repeatedly hit Gu Jingze's shoulders as he remained still. He looked at Lin Che's anguished face and endured her continual beatings. Until she had no more energy, he remained there and not moving. Gu Jingze looked at her petite face. "Do you really want a divorce so bad?" Lin Che slowly lifted her head and looked at Gu Jingze. Yes. Yes, she wanted to leave him as soon as possible to save herself from falling even deeper. If she left now, perhaps everything wouldn't be too late. Gu Jingze looked at her deeply as a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. After she said that she suddenly wanted to leave, he had a strange feeling of wanting to keep her by his side no matter what. Even if he had to tie her up to keep her beside him, he did not want her to leave. Why did he think that way? He could not understand himself either. He only felt that he had finally gotten used to her existence. But now, she wanted to abandon him and leave. He was not willing to think about a divorce. His heart hurt uncontrollably as he held her shoulders firmly. He did not realize how tightly he held her. What if I say that I won't allow it? I won't allow you to leave, Gu Jingze's deep voice resounded. Lin Che looked up. Her head was still hazy but her eyes were clear. She looked into Gu Jingze's intense eyes. Those dark eyes somehow seemed to be even darker now. He pushed Lin Che onto the bed and held her down. He stared at Lin Che's face with his hands on her shoulders. He lowered his eyes. Why? Lin Che lowered her voice as well. She was starting to become anxious under his gaze. Why didn't he allow her to leave? Gu Jingze said, you asked me when we can get a divorce. What if I say we're not getting a divorce? What? In the next moment, Gu Jingze's kiss firmly fell on her lips. Lin Che felt that she was fainting in his arms from his passionate kiss. It was unavoidable. Chapter 144. You will only hurt yourself by caring too much. When Lin Che woke up the next day, she felt her head was in a mess. She tried to remember what happened last night but realized that the sun was already high in the sky and her head was resting in the nook of a soft arm. She seemed to recall what happened and when she turned around, she saw Gu Jingze beside her. It turned out that she had been sleeping in his arms. She quickly looked down to inspect her clothes and saw that she was still wearing the clothes from yesterday. Only then did she relax. However, she could not remember what exactly happened last night. Meanwhile, Gu Jingze opened his eyes slowly. He frowned at this fidgety woman who was starting to move again. He did not sleep properly last night and he was now being disturbed again. His face had become indescribable. When she saw Gu Jingze's quiet gaze, Lin Che quickly sat up and moved away from his arm. Rubbing her head, she said, sorry. Was I drunk again last night? Gu Jingze stared at her deeply. His eyes said it all. Lin Che got up in embarrassment, I'm really sorry. I don't know what came over me. I didn't do anything last night, right? You forgot everything. Yes, Lin Che really forgot this time. She had no idea what she drank. It was sweet but the alcoholic aftertaste was strong. After drinking that, she couldn't remember anything else. Gu Jingze said, you dragged me along and insisted on sleeping with me. I wanted to leave but you weren't willing. Because of you, I didn't even get to wash up last night and went straight to bed. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze in disbelief. Looking at Gu Jingze, he seemed to be unharmed and just sitting there in his crumpled coat. Lin Che blushed, sorry. I didn't mean to. Gu Jingze said, I didn't know you would be so brazen when you're drunk. You even insisted on taking off your clothes to make me sleep with you. Lin Che refused to believe that she would do something like that. But looking at Gu Jingze, he was so sexy and charming. He could easily enchant women and make them lose control. Maybe she got drunk and her animal instincts took over. Maybe she really came on to him. Sorry. I didn't do anything to you, right? Lin Che placed her hands across her chest and looked anxiously at Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze scoffed, luckily, I blocked you. Otherwise, I'll see how you react today. I'm really sorry. Then how can I make it up to you? Forget it. You would already be doing me a favor by not causing trouble outside every few days. Lin Che looked at him guiltily. She watched Gu Jingze get off the bed while she sat there hatefully scolding herself. She already told herself not to cause any trouble and she just did it again. Gu Jingze opened the bathroom door and turned to look at the mulling Lin Che. It seemed like she really forgot everything this time. In the afternoon, Chen Yucheng saw Gu Jingze come in and said in surprise, wow, President Gu. What an honor to have you here. I thought with Madam around, you would never patronize me again. You were right. I feel like you are no longer of use to me. I wanted to let you go help others instead. It's too selfish of me to keep you tied down. Chen Yucheng's expression immediately changed and he quickly smiled and said, President Gu, as you said, researching your illness can be considered as helping others around the world with the same problem. But I couldn't make any discovery and I dared not contribute to seeing patients anymore. I've been researching for such a long time. To give up now would be a waste of effort. Also, even though you have madam, you can actually still come to me for other problems. Gu Jingze glared at him but was too lazy to argue, so he sat across him. Chen Yucheng asked, "What's the matter with you now?" Chen Yucheng could tell that something was not right. He must have met an obstacle again. I just think that I'm beginning to not want a divorce anymore. Huh. Chen Yucheng smiled at Gu Jingze, I would guess so. Actually, there's nothing bad about madam. She may differ in status, lifestyle habits, and may sometimes not get along with you but she is actually not bad. Gu Jingze looked up and glanced at him. Is this rubbish going to solve my problem? Chen Yucheng sat up straight this time and looked at Gu Jingze, you know that I can't solve your problems. You have to do it yourself. I can only help you clarify your thoughts. Since you don't want to divorce, then don't. Why make it so difficult for yourself? I just can't make sense of why I don't want a divorce. What are some reasons you can think of? Chen Yucheng was more professional now. He looked at Gu Jingze and spoke gently. Gu Jingze replied, maybe I have gotten used to her existence. Maybe it's because she's the one asking for a divorce and I'm not happy about it. Maybe I have fantasies of her. Fantasy. Chen Yucheng almost stepped out of his role. He looked at Gu Jingze, what? Fantasy. Gu Jingze glared at him again. He was asking the obvious. Upon seeing his look, Chen Yucheng immediately laughed. Gu Jingze was unamused. Chen Yucheng, do you really not wish to continue working? No. So you're saying that you and her have not done the deed? Gu Jingze's face darkened. Gu Jingze said, I can't let us be tangled up even more. I also can't do bad things to her just to fulfill my desires. That is my natural need and she is not an outlet to fulfill it with, so I can't do that. Chen Yucheng replied, I think you're suppressing yourself too much, that's why you can't let go. Perhaps try to really be with her. Maybe then you won't have such thoughts. Quote. Chen Yucheng said, why? What are you concerned about? This way, if I really caved into my desire and did something unforgettable to her, wouldn't I be hurting her? Chen Yucheng said, you're concerned about her and that's why you're suppressing yourself. But why are you so concerned about her? Because you can't comprehend this either. Yes. This is a do-or-die problem. If you care about her and don't wish to hurt her, then you can only hurt yourself. This is your choice. Gu Jingze still could not think it through. In the end, the answer he needed was not something that anybody could tell him. Thankfully, Lin Che really seemed to have forgotten everything that happened last night. Back at home, Gu Jingze saw that Lin Che was opening a package. Gu Jingze walked over, what are you doing? Someone sent it to me saying it needs my attention. I don't know what it is. Chapter 145. A man I can't afford to want. Gu Jingze took a few steps. His face darkened as he pulled Lin Che away. If you don't know what it is, why are you planning to open it so carelessly? Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze awkwardly, I think it might be from Shen Yoren. She said that she was going to send me a gift. Gu Jingze heard this and was still suspicious. He made sure Lin Che got distance from it and then carefully unwrapped the package. When he opened it, he froze. The items wrapped in the plastic inside looked strange. Lin Che saw Gu Jingze's odd expression and quickly went closer to see, what exactly is it? She pulled apart the packaging and realized that the things inside were. Some were colorful while some were oddly shaped. She pulled out the packaging and realized something that looked like a banana had rolled onto the floor. Some were soft and rubbery and bounced on the floor. Below, there was something oval-shaped. One item after another. Lin Che thought for a while and then it suddenly became clear to her, aren't these sex toys? Before she finished, she quickly covered her mouth and glanced at Gu Jingze. He was stunned. Frowning, he also suddenly understood what all those things were. They turned out to be this Shen Yoren. Lin Che wanted to kill her. She said she wanted to give her a present. These were the presents. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze's ugly expression and didn't know what to do. She looked speechlessly at Gu Jingze and hurriedly gathered the items back into the box. These things. I'll take them away right now. Gu Jingze stood there and watched Lin Che. At that moment, he wondered if all of Lin Che's friends were like this. Lin Che said, I didn't know either. This Shen Yoren must be making fun of me. Gu Jingze looked at those things. Seeing them for the first time really made him curious. However, his mind soon drifted towards how it would be like if those devices were used on Lin Che. Perhaps it was because he had just returned from Chen Yucheng's place and had been deeply affected by his words. Chen Yucheng's sentence flashed in Gu Jingze's mind. Try and get it, then, he might not be in such a dilemma. He watched Lin Che put those objects back in the box and subconsciously moved closer to her. Perhaps if he tried, he would finally understand why. However, just as he went towards her, Lin Che had already gotten up. Gu Jingze missed. He closed his eyes and felt his body ache from last night. He stood properly again. He chided himself silently. He was becoming such an idiot. And this was all because of Lin Che. Gu Jingze saw Lin Che move the things into the storeroom and followed after her like a phantom. Lin Che turned around and bumped into Gu Jingze behind her. Lin Che looked at him in surprise and saw that his face was unusually red. The storeroom was filled with all kinds of things, so even though it was a big room, it felt very narrow. Lin Che looked up at Gu Jingze to meet his gaze. What's up with you? Your face is so red, Lin Che said as she touched his face. Did he have a fever? Why was he so red? Gu Jingze grabbed Lin Che's hand. On one hand, he wanted to follow his principles. On the other hand, he thought about Chen Yucheng's words again. He was unsure if his heart would stop thinking that way if he really had her. Quote. Lin Che stepped backward while Gu Jingze stepped forward. He looked at Lin Che. Why don't we try out those things? Since they are already here. Lin Che said in shock, what do you mean by try out? I'm not trying anything. Lin Che pushed Gu Jingze with both hands. Let go. What are you doing? Gu Jingze looked deeply at Lin Che. Lin Che. Have you really forgotten what happened last night? Yes, Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze said, but I can't forget. What does that have to do with me? Did I really come on to you? I'm really sorry, I got drunk from bad alcohol. Gu Jingze looked down at Lin Che, but you actually want me to, right? You're talking nonsense. Lin Che became a Spartan. Her face was red as she pushed Gu Jingze and asked, why would I want you? Gu Jingze looked at her flushed face and planted a kiss on her lips. Lin Che froze. Her heart seemed to have suddenly awakened and was thumping loudly in her chest as if it was going to burst out any minute. Their wet lips rubbed against each other. He hugged her and their bodies slowly leaned into each other. Lin Che was really longing for more. A scene flashed across her mind. It looked like a snippet of last night. In that moment, she suddenly recalled something about her mentioning a divorce and how he said that he did not allow her to leave. Lin Che opened her eyes. The taste of him was still in her mouth. It was so hypnotizing, as if he could make anybody fall deeply. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che. See? You clearly want me too. Lin Che blushed even more. Gu Jingze continued, so why are you resisting me? His hand was placed on her waist. Lin Che bit her lips and looked at Gu Jingze. Her heart was filled with sorrow and fear. Gu Jingze, I'm easily drawn to your charms. You're good. You're really too good. You're probably the best guy I've ever met in my life. I used to be extremely unlucky and anybody I met was terrible. So after meeting you, I seem to have lost my direction because you were too nice. But you're in love with someone else and I have experienced this before. I don't want to involve myself for a second time. Yesterday, I saw the gift Mo Hilling gave you. Gu Jingze, what she said is actually right. You two are a better match, so if you only want to toy with me, please don't do it anymore. Gu Jingze's heart sank. He thought about Mo Hilling's gift, which he didn't even open up to see what it was. Actually, that gift was. No matter what it was, it's like you. I can't afford to want it. When she said finish, Lin Che pushed Gu Jingze away. She suddenly felt sad and depressed, but she smiled to herself. She had gotten used to this feeling a long time ago. Normal people like her had to face this. She could see what she wanted every day, but every day, she had to force herself to forget. Because she couldn't afford to want him. Chapter 146. I broke up with her long ago. Gu Jingze grabbed her hand and slowly lowered it. If it was only a natural desire for her, then why did it all disappear after hearing all these? Gu Jingze looked plainly at her. I'm sorry. If you don't want to, I won't force you. Gu Jingze had indeed never really put himself in her shoes before. Because he was affected by Chen Yucheng's words and only thought about that one sentence, he only thought of wanting her and not understanding his own dilemma. However, this was indeed unfair to her. Gu Jingze said, I promise you that as long as I haven't properly understood myself, I won't touch you like this again. Lin Che halted and looked at Gu Jingze's face. She felt extremely touched. All men were creatures who followed what their lower bodies told them. But if he started thinking with his upper body for her, wouldn't that mean that deep down, he still cared about her? This small caring act already made her heart very happy. She was actually very easy to please. Just a tiny bit of effort moved her. But if you're angry because of Mo Hilling's gift to me, I can tell you. Gu Jingze stepped aside and pulled out a box. There were countless boxes of all sizes inside. Lin Che was stunned. Looking at these pretty packages, Lin Che asked, what are all these? They look like they've never been opened. Gu Jingze looked at the dust that collected on them and said to Lin Che, some were opened but others stayed closed. All these are gifts from Hilling throughout the years. Lin Che looked in wonder, why did you dump them all in here? Gu Jingze said, Hilling would give me many presents every year but I have no use for them. I don't have the time to manage them either. She kept giving more and more without caring if I used them or not. Thus, I could only put them all in here. The one that you saw was just because I haven't had the time to put it here. In that case, Mo Hilling actually never really cared. She didn't take note of whether he needed those things and continued giving. She didn't even care if he would reject them and just sent them over. If he refused, she would get upset for a long time and insisted that he no longer liked her. She was a little too self-centered. Lin Che still could not quite comprehend, wow, all these are very expensive. And they are gifts. You are too. Gu Jingze continued, at the beginning, I would give her a proper reply every time. Eventually, I realized that I was wasting too much time as I was always so busy, especially during that period. I kept going overseas for business. I was practically spending my days in a plane and I had no time to return the favor. I could only chuck them in here and wait for when I had the time to handle it. Lin Che thought that this Mo Hilling was too scary. How much did she spend on all those things? But this was a wealthy person. That was the difference compared to a poor person. Lin Che wanted to give but she didn't have a lot of money and giving should be done with the heart. As long as she was thoughtful, there was no need to constantly give. Buying some everyday item or something useful would have sufficed. Lin Che saw several tie clips, bracelets, ties, shoes, and almost every other thing inside. She could immediately tell that these were branded goods. Anyone would have been envious. You have a girlfriend like this, if anyone saw, you don't know how envious they would be. What girlfriend? Gu Jingze asked with a straight face. Lin Che looked at him, isn't she your girlfriend? She spent so much on you. All these here are worth a lot. Gu Jingze said, at the start, I was happy too. But afterward, I realized that she continued giving me things when she saw that I was happy. The more she gave, the less meaningful they became. She only needed to ask someone to buy on her behalf and I don't exactly need all these. I guess I no longer anticipated them eventually. Lin Che thought that it was indeed the heart that mattered when giving. Otherwise, if it became such a norm that it lost its meaning. Gu Jingze frowned at Lin Che, and who said she's my girlfriend? Lin Che looked at him strangely, why not? Gu Jingze said, actually, from the very beginning, I already told her that she could go find another man after I got married. But she just wasn't willing to. And I already made it clear to her that I am a man with a wife. I cannot have an intimate relationship with her anymore. She stopped being my girlfriend a long time ago. Lin Che's jaw dropped in shock. She didn't expect him to suddenly say all these. He already made it clear to Mo Hilling. Gu Jingze narrowed his eyes at Lin Che. Don't tell me you really thought that I was that bad of a person. I thought you said that we will divorce sooner or later, so you could continue that kind of relationship with her. I'm telling the truth. I don't want to lead Hilling on and I don't want to embarrass you. If I continued being intimate with her like before, how would other people look at you? Don't worry, I won't do that to you. Lin Che was so grateful that she didn't know what to say. He was truly a very good man. Or perhaps, she was too easily satisfied. She honestly thought that they were still a couple and her position was so awkward that she could die. Now, she felt a lot better. Him thinking about her was already enough to move her. Lin Che blurted, Gu Jingze. Why not? Looking down below, she blushed and said, I can use my hands to help you. Otherwise, it might be too uncomfortable for you to endure like this. Gu Jingze thought he had heard wrong. But he didn't. He looked at her red face. Because she took the initiative and suggested it herself, his body stopped listening to him and swelled up again. He wanted to say no but his body had already betrayed his thoughts. Lin Che was too moved, so she blurted it out in that moment. But looking at Gu Jingze's bulge below, she started to regret it. Gu Jingze said, wear that for me to see. Can you do that? Lin Che turned to look and felt even more embarrassed. The clothes he was referring to was part of the tools that Shen Yoren sent over. There was a lot of fabric but it was the type that clung to the body. Give Gu Jingze an inch and he will take a mile. However, Lin Che looked and was spurred on by his words. She didn't even think and agreed to it. In the bathroom, Gu Jingze unbuttoned a part of his pajamas and sat on the bed. He could not keep still. After a while, he heard the bathroom door open and quickly looked over. Lin Che was trying to cover her important parts. It was not revealing but she looked even more sexy like that. His eyes moved as he stared at her. The appreciation in his eyes became engulfed by desire. Chapter 147. Shen Yoren, just you wait. Lin Che's face was full of ridicule. When she walked in, she was decked in red and twisting about like a cooked prawn. Gu Jingze called her name, Lin Che, come here. Lin Che hesitated. She was really regretting it now. Why did she have to say something without thinking? So ridiculous. However, this was the path that she chose. She had to follow it even if she was on her knees. Since she said it herself, she had to continue even if she was going to cry. Lin Che hardened her skin and walked to the bed. She looked at Gu Jingze's chest which was half revealed and lowered her head. She dared not to look at his face. With her head bent down and her face red, she felt Gu Jingze hug her. She wailed pitifully, seriously. I'm already regretting it. Gu Jingze's face darkened, regretting. Too late for that. If she was not going to help today, he would have to devour her for sure. At night, Lin Che held her aching arms and angrily thought that this was all Shen Yoren's fault. Was she mad to actually send her so many nasty things? She was definitely making fun of her. The next day. In the morning, Gu Jingze got up feeling fully energized and left. Meanwhile, Lin Che went straight to look for Shen Yoren. Shen Yoren, come here. I am so going to kill you. Lin Che rushed into Shen Yoren's house and wanted to strangle Shen Yoren. Shen Yoren was pressed down on the bed. She quickly begged for forgiveness. Forgive me, forgive me. I only did it for your own good. Do you see? You're glowing. Was it a very groundbreaking night? Get lost. Lin Che was exasperated just thinking about it. The two of them made up and went shopping. Before they graduated, they often went out together. Just like any other girls, they would eat ice cream and buy cheap clothes from the night market. Lin Che wore a pair of big sunglasses to prevent anyone from recognizing her. Shen Yoren walked beside her as they ate ice cream. She said, you guys are too weak. Did nothing happen last night? Seriously, do you have any idea how much I spent on all those things? Lin Che only wanted to kill her. I'll send them back tomorrow so you can use them. Humph, I won't use them. Lin Che's phone rang. She saw her father's name Lin Yukai and frowned before picking it up. Lin Che, something happened to Lin Yu, Lin Yukai exclaimed over the phone. Lin Che asked, what happened? She went to entertain clients and offended people. Now, they're coming at us to settle scores. Tell me, what should we do? Lin Che had no idea when they decided to look for her when the family got in trouble. How would I know what to do? You know Gu Jingze. Can't you make him show his face? Dad, that's not right. We can't always implicate others with our family problems. She's your sister. You share the same blood. You're closer than anyone else somehow. Yes, when they were young, Lin Yu always stole her work and passed them off as her own. She must have felt the same way. Okay, Dad, I got it. I'll mention it to Gu Jingze if I get the chance to. Good. Our family can only look up to you now. Lin Che hung up. Shen Yoren looked at her in a puzzled manner. What the heck? Your family is coming to you when they're in trouble now. What right do they have to do that? Now, they know that you're capable. In the past, they treated you like something they picked up from the trash. They never treated you as family. Seriously, don't help him. Lin Che said, it's not good to mention this to Gu Jingze. He doesn't owe me anything and yet I'm always causing trouble for him. So what now? Lin Che said, I'll find out who she has offended and then we'll see how things go. Alright, I don't want to shop anymore. You can go on, I'm going home first. Alright. Shen Yoren waited for Lin Che to leave before she walked out of the store. Just then, the alarms rang. Shen Yoren was confused as a few security guards ran over to her. What are you guys doing? Do you have something on you that is not paid for? That can't be. I already paid. Shen Yoren was still puzzled. The security guards let her walk through the sensors once more and the alarms went off again. The security guard said, let's call the police. Now that we can't search bodies anymore, we need the police to handle things like this. Huh. Shen Yoren said depressingly, okay, I'll turn out my pockets. I really didn't take anything. However, she felt something in her own pocket. Inside was a box of condoms. Her face turned red. The security guard laughed, ha ha ha. Miss, you could have bought it if you needed it. Shen Yoren was still stunned. Someone beside her said in an airy tone, exactly. You can always buy it if you need it. But then again, I really couldn't tell that you would need this. The person speaking was none other than Chen Yucheng. Shen Yoren looked at Chen Yucheng in defeat. Why are you here? Chen Yucheng replied, of course I am. My office is just beside here. I should be asking you that question. Why are you here? Shen Yoren said depressingly, I'm here to shop. This is a shopping mall, isn't it? It was all because Lin Che lived nearby and told her that this mall was fun, so she followed her here. However, all these wealthy people living together was understandable. Shen Yoren glared at Chen Yucheng forcefully. She threw the box of condoms at Chen Yucheng. I don't need it. It's for you. Since you're such a player, I was afraid you'd contract some disease. Humph. Quote. Shen Yoren quickly ran out after she said that. Chen Yucheng stood there holding onto the condoms. He frowned as he stared in the direction where she left. When Shen Yoren left, she still could not figure out how that thing ended up in her own pocket. Just then, she heard an alert from her phone. It was a message from Lin Che. Did you receive my thank you gift? Shen Yoren immediately reacted. That was Lin Che's act. That damned Lin Che. Just you wait, Lin Che. Don't let me catch you next time. Shen Yoren was so embarrassed. It would have been alright if there was nobody she knew, but she just had to bump into that bastard doctor, Chen Yucheng. She even became a laughingstock for him. Lin Che laughed out loud as she read Shen Yoren's reply and imagined her hopping about. She finally sought her revenge. Who asked Shen Yoren to do that to her? Soon, she got back home. But before she reached the entrance, she saw a familiar car waiting outside. Lin Che had just gotten out of her own car when someone chased her from behind. Lin Che, don't go in yet. We've been waiting the whole day for you. Lin Che turned around to see that the person was Lin Yukai. Behind Lin Yukai was Lin Yu, who she had not seen in a long time. She looked over and was not quite willing to go over. Especially when she saw Lin Che, she acted disdainfully. However, Lin Yukai pulled Lin Yu up beside him. Lin Che, I brought your sister to see you. Chapter 148. The reason for coming. Lin Che looked at the father and daughter in surprise. What exactly were these two up to? Lin Yukai touched his almost bald head, smiled at Lin Che, and said, your sister got into trouble and we can only bring her here to beg you. You have to help us. This matter is extremely important. Please do something for your sister's sake. Lin Yukai looked at Lin Che and thought that he was right. She wouldn't have helped if they didn't go look for her. Seeing her like this, she really had no sense of urgency. He was right to come over personally. Otherwise, she most likely would have pretended that nothing happened and would have thrown them under the bus. This Lin Che was too ridiculous. How could she not quickly help her own sister? Lin Che could only look at the two of them who were blocking her way. Just what exactly happened? I still don't know anything. Lin Yukai quickly said, when your sister was out entertaining clients, an old CEO wanted to take advantage of her, but of course, she didn't agree. Your sister has values, so she wouldn't agree to this, right? So your sister slapped him. Now he's declaring war on us and wants to make sure that we can't live in the B district anymore. I'm still worried and don't know what to do. Your sister is at a prime age. She can't be ruined just like this. Lin Che asked, who exactly did you offend? Tell me this person's name first. Lin Yukai nudged Lin Yu and she said unwillingly, the person is Chen Jingxian. That fatty is so ugly and disgusting. I would never get close to him. He never took a look in the mirror and asked himself if he was good enough for me, but he dared to try taking advantage of me. I was already giving him face by going to entertain him. I would never forgive him if he tried to touch me. Lin Che frowned at Lin Yu. If you wanted nothing to do with him, then you shouldn't have gone out with him. You gave him hope and then you rejected him. You should have stuck to your principles from the start and he wouldn't have tried to get close to you. He obviously had a motive when he treated you out to dinner. How could you not tell? You should have rejected him from the start. Lin Che had received such invitations before, but she never dared to participate in them. From the beginning, their motives were already clearly expressed in these bosses' eyes. It was needless to say. That was why Lin Che was firm in her rejections. Perhaps it was because of this that many people thought that she was not a fun person and she lost many opportunities. However, she had never regretted it. She was also fortunate to have Yu Minmin as her agent. She never forced Lin Che to go out and accompany people to eat and drink. In this aspect, Yu Minmin also had her principles. Lin Yu said, what could I have done? He's a big boss and I didn't dare to offend him. If I didn't dine with him, how would I have gotten my role? Getting a role just by having a meal. Since when was it that easy? Lin Che knew that there was nothing she could say that would help, so she only glanced at Lin Yu. Lin Yukai quickly said, all right, we can talk about these later. What should we do now? Ah, Lin Che, why don't you invite us in to sit? We wanted to go in ourselves, but those minions outside the door wouldn't let us in. I already told them that we are your family, but they still didn't let us in. You need to let them know. Lin Yu chimed in, exactly. Hurry up and fire them all. Lin Che said, they are only doing what they were told to do. That is why they didn't let you in. Furthermore, not just anybody could enter the GU residence. Lin Che had always been cautious to not bring anybody back. But now, they took it upon themselves to come here. Her father didn't even greet her. She frowned and was not sure of what to do. Just then, a security guard from inside ran over. Madam, we have already informed sir and he said you can bring them in to wait. Sir will be back shortly. They had been instructed to immediately report to him if Lin Che ran into a problem. Thus, upon seeing Lin Che return home and talk here, they quickly reported it to Gu Jingze. From the moment she heard some of the staff call Lin Che, Madam, Lin Yukai thought that she had a rather good standing in the Gu household. On the other hand, Lin Yu scoffed as she thought of how shameless Lin Che was. She was already being served as a wife when she only moved in. She must have made them call her, Madam. However, she looked at the security guards and could not help but feel that they were indeed the Gu family's security. They were professional and looked elite. When Lin Che heard that Gu Jingze actually knew about this, she looked at her father and said, let's wait inside then. Lin Yukai was naturally elated. He immediately said to Lin Che happily, "Good daughter. You must talk to Gu Jingze properly later." As they walked in, they looked at the Gu residence's exquisite decor. Lin Yukai and Lin Yu were amazed. Of course, this was Gu Jingze's home. It was elegant but not at all over the top. It was very tastefully decorated. This place was so huge that it could fit multiple houses of the Lin family. To think Lin Che actually lived here. Lin Yu was naturally envious and jealous. She hatefully thought, how did Lin Che get so lucky to actually be fancied by Gu Jingze? If only she could stay here too. How great that would be. Lin Yu even wanted to take a picture to show off. The security guard beside her noticed and immediately took her phone away. Lin Yu exclaimed angrily, "What are you doing?" Lin Che replied, "Hey, you can't take pictures in here." "Then how come you're allowed? It's not like I've never seen you showing off to your friends." Lin Che looked at the security guard who said, "Madam can do whatever she wants but outsiders have no guarantee so they can't take photos. Sorry, I will be holding on to your phone." "What?" Lin Yu almost wanted to stamp her feet in anger. Lin Che glanced at Lin Yu and said, "Okay, let's go in." Lin Yu followed Lin Che and reluctantly exclaimed, "So you're just going to let them take away my phone? I'm your sister. What's wrong with taking photos? That's their job. I don't manage them." "Hey, it seems like you're only like this in the Gu household. Even a security guard can climb all over you." Lin Yu wanted to agitate her on purpose. Lin Che replied, "We all have our own roles. There's no stepping over me. They are strict with their jobs so that we can be safe. I think that's a good thing." Quote. Lin Yu thought that she had no say in this house. She couldn't even manage a maid and that was why she was trying to find an excuse. They were soon in the living room. Looking at the gigantic living space, the maids who were going back and forth quickly prepared fruits and tea for the guests. They were even more amazed. So many maids. Did they all wait on Lin Che? Lin Che's life here was way too comfortable. The three of them sat down. It wasn't long before they heard the noise coming from the door outside. Gu Jingze was home. He walked in while still wearing his work clothes. It was a straight suit that emphasized the coldness in his eyes. He looked high and mighty as if it was written all over him to not come close. This threatening air about him made him even more attractive. Chapter 149, Shameless Father and Daughter. Lin Yu's eyes immediately followed Gu Jingze as he walked in and she quickly stood up. Lin Yukai also quickly went up to greet him. "Mr. Gu, we're here today to see Lin Che. We feel so relieved to know that she is living in such comfort." Lin Che rolled her eyes. Lin Yukai pretended not to see and continued talking to Gu Jingze. "This is Lin Yu, Lin Che's sister." Lin Yu's eyes glistened as she gazed bashfully at him, "President Gu." Gu Jingze glanced at her then plainly called out to Lin Che, "Come over here." Lin Che quickly went over and looked at Gu Jingze. "My dad got into some trouble so he came to find me." Lin Yukai quickly chimed in, "Yes. Our Lin Yu, this child, has always been so honest and self-loving. So when she went out to entertain clients, this character of hers offended someone. Because someone wanted to touch her and she refused, so she offended him. You see." Lin Yukai boasted about Lin Yu and then explained the situation. Gu Jingze replied, "I'll let someone handle this matter." "Ah, I just knew it. President Gu is such a nice man." Lin Yu, quickly thank President Gu. Lin Yu bashfully said, "President Gu, I don't know how I can thank you." Gu Jingze held Lin Che with one hand and smiled at her. The doting feeling in his eyes seemed to say that Lin Che was the most precious treasure in his heart. Lin Yu saw and her heart shattered. For Lin Che to be liked by Gu Jingze, Lin Yu wouldn't have conceded even if she was dead. Gu Jingze said, "There's no need. Just thank your sister." He meant that he was only helping them for Lin Che's sake. Lin Yu's heart sank and she immediately felt depressed. To have to thank this person whom she had never regarded as a sister, she would never be willing. Gu Jingze continued, "You don't need to worry about this matter anymore." Lin Yukai quickly said, "Yes. With President Gu's help, we will definitely not worry anymore. But President Gu, why don't you let us treat you to a meal?" Gu Jingze replied, forget it. This cannot do. We're one family now. It's just a simple meal. Gu Jingze said, the kitchen here has everything. It's better if you two stayed for a meal here instead. Lin Yukai heard this and got even happier. Of course, it was better to be able to stay here and eat. President Gu is really too kind. I won't stand on ceremony then. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze and tugged at him. She said, let's go in first. I need to talk to you. Gu Jingze nodded and let the maids take care of the guests. He went inside with Lin Che. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze, why did you invite them for a meal? They came all the way here. It would be rude if I didn't invite them to eat here. Lin Che said, you don't have to be so nice to them. Give them an inch and they will ask for a mile. Don't you think I know my own father? It's all right. What can they gain? Gu Jingze said nonchalantly. Lin Che said, but why are you back? Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che, if I didn't come back, wouldn't they continue pestering you? Ah, Lin Che she smiled and looked gratefully at Gu Jingze as she knew that they were only here for their own benefit, but there's no need to make they stay and eat. Seriously. She did not miss the way Lin Yu looked at Gu Jingze. She was practically drooling. Who knows what kind of twisted idea they will have again later. Gu Jingze pulled her and said, that's why I'm giving them the chance to drop their idea. Lin Che smiled at him. Gu Jingze did have his own ideas after all. And Lin Che had absolute faith in Gu Jingze for dealing with all those problems. Meanwhile, the two people outside really had some twisted idea. Lin Yu saw the two of them go in and angrily said, what does Gu Jingze see in Lin Che? Seriously. Lin Che's chest was not as big as hers. Even though she had implants. Lin Yukai said, enough. I wanted her to take your place in marrying into the Cheng family last time. Luckily, she didn't go through with it. You still dare to talk about it. I was almost scared to death when you wanted me to marry that retard. I would definitely not, Lin Yu said. She would be better off marrying him. There's nothing lucky about not going through with it. If she married him, I wouldn't have to see her be all high and mighty in front of me. I'm not happy. Lin Yukai said, you can't think that way. It benefits us now that she's at the top. I don't want any benefit from her. Who knows what kind of tactics she used to become so lucky. Otherwise, who would have fallen for her with the way she is? Ah, Lin Yu, you must think. She is capable now, that is why you were able to meet Gu Jingze and be in the Gu residence. You must take this opportunity. Lin Yukai's expression hinted a certain meaning at Lin Yu. Lin Yu immediately understood. Exactly. Now, she was able to meet Gu Jingze. Also, Gu Jingze was very handsome and charming. She must grab this opportunity. It was time to eat. The maids had already set up the table and they placed exquisite tableware on the huge table. The dishes looked so appetizing. Lin Yu and Lin Yukai were in awe. This was the life of a wealthy person. Just then, Lin Che and Gu Jingze walked over. Gu Jingze held Lin Che's hand as they got to the table. He helped pull out the chair for Lin Che to sit down before taking his own seat. It's just regular home-cooked food. Don't mind it, Gu Jingze said. If that was regular home-cooked food, then they had no idea what a proper meal was like in the Gu household. Lin Yukai quickly said, this is already good enough. It's good enough. During the meal, Lin Yukai looked at Lin Che who ignored him. He could only endure it. They finally finished eating and since there was no reason to stay, Lin Yukai quickly said to Lin Che, I would like to have a few words with you alone. Lin Che looked speechlessly at Lin Yukai. She put down her utensils and went out with Lin Yukai. Lin Yukai quickly turned to Lin Yu and gave her a look. Lin Yu sat upright. She was nervous but excited as she looked over at Gu Jingze who was sitting elegantly over there. But she did not notice the coldness in his eyes. When they were outside, Lin Che asked, Dad, the problem is already settled. What else do you want to talk about? Lin Yukai said, this Gu Jingze seems to be treating you rather well. Lin Che replied, yes. Lin Yukai continued, Lin Che, it was not easy for us to bring you up. Think about it, if it wasn't for the Lin family, would you be what you are today? You can't just spread your wings, fly away, and forget about our family. Dad, what exactly are you trying to say? Can you be direct? Chapter 150. Just get them taken care of. Lin Yukai chuckled. Lin Che, these feelings that a man has are all highly erratic. Even toward women, after some time, he may get bored, especially a man like Gu Jingze. I'm doing this out of consideration for the two of you too. I'm worried that when he stops liking you and when the time comes, he may even abandon you. Let your older sister have some contact with him as well, so that she can help look after you a little. Lin Yukai's words were sufficiently vague. However, after giving it some thought, she still instantly understood. Father, what do you mean? You still want Lin Yu to go? Go, what do you take Gu Jingze for? Lin Yukai was also embarrassed. However, ultimately it was that daughter who was close to them. They definitely could not count on this daughter as much as they could Lin Yu. Thus, he still wanted Lin Yu to have good prospects. Lin Che turned her head and was about to leave. Lin Yukai hastily stopped Lin Che by saying, "Hey, Lin Che, why are you so insensible?" I'm being insensible. Surely, it's not that you can't tolerate seeing your older sister have a good outcome to this extent. You just want benefits for yourself and you don't think about other people. Lin Che truly felt that her own outlook was almost about to be subverted by this ridiculous father of hers. Meanwhile, outside, Lin Yu saw that they had finally left. She looked in Gu Jingze's direction with a gaze that emanated obvious adoration. Even though she was only looking at him like this and had not at all gotten to know Gu Jingze, it was difficult for anyone to not fall in love with such a man. She looked at the hard lines of Gu Jingze's figure. How could every part of it emanate a cool masculine aura without an ounce of the softness that many men now had, and yet still look so good? It really made her feel that it was hard to come by. The Gu family's foundation was simply good. It was no wonder that the Gu family produced such a huge celebrity in the form of Gu Jingyu. The president was also a total heartthrob. And this mysterious Gu Jingze who kept a low profile was naturally very likable as well. Lin Yu intentionally pulled down the collar of her shirt to expose a lot more of her chest. She looked at Gu Jingze and said, "President Gu, your house is really so huge. It's so beautiful." Upon hearing the affectedly sweet voice of a woman, Gu Jingze lifted his head without batting an eyelid and looked at her. "Really?" Lin Yu said, "Yes, I really envy Lin Che for being able to live here." Gu Jingyu raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Lin Yu. Lin Yu said, "President Gu, the security here is really impressive too. When I wanted to come in earlier, my clothes were tugged at until they tore." As she said this, she tugged at her clothes which were slightly damaged while taking the chance to pull her clothes slightly lower again. However, while Gu Jingze seemed to be looking in her direction, he also seemed to not be looking. Lin Yu thought gloomily, had he seen her chest or not? She had an extremely great figure. The Lin family's genes were not bad. It was obvious from looking at how even that last Lin Che had grown to be so pretty. Thus, Lin Yu had full confidence in her own looks and figure. Gu Jingze put down the cup in his hand and looked over indifferently. He said in a voice that was neither cold nor warm, "This is their job. They can't get complacent. I still hope you can understand that." Lin Yu's expression sank. She thought to herself that Gu Jingze was a little too unromantic. Lin Yu felt that she was still not being bold enough. When a woman pursued a man, there was only a thin veil between them. A man definitely could not resist the temptation of a woman's body. Lin Yu got up immediately and walked forward as she looked at Gu Jingze. "President Gu, I can't be understanding. President Gu must compensate me for my damaged clothes. Quote. However, she saw Gu Jingze narrow his eyes. Before she had even gotten close, several men suddenly rushed up around her and together they pushed Lin Yu directly to the ground. Lin Yu's delicate voice ultimately turned into screeches. She was terrified as her face was stuck to the ground. She felt herself get pressed on the ground and was unable to move. She only came to her senses after a long time and realized how terrible she looked like this. For a moment, she felt immensely ashamed and wished that she had never come here. "Let go. Who are you people? Why are you doing this to me?" She struggled and tried to get up, but these people did not know how to treat a woman tenderly at all. They pressed Lin Yu down firmly and did not release her. At this moment, Lin Che and Lin Yukai walked out from inside in a hurry. Lin Yukai's face darkened immediately when he saw Lin Yu in this state. This Lin Yu had really failed to live up to his expectations. How could she actually be so? Lin Yukai hastily said, President Gu, please show mercy. Why is Lin Yu in such a state? Lin Che took a glance but already seemed to understand. She took another indifferent glance before walking to Gu Jingze's side. As he gazed at the two people, Gu Jingze looked at them coolly before lifting his hand. What are you doing? Quick, let go. Only then did the few bodyguards let go of Lin Yu, who was in a sorry plight. Gu Jingze smiled faintly. Although he was apologizing, not an ounce of remorse could be felt from both his expression and tone. I apologize. These security guards in my house are simply too sensitive. Apart from people that they're familiar with, they'll just be like this when strangers get close. I've reproached them many times too, but it can't be helped either. Lin Yukai's embarrassment showed on his face as he pulled Lin Yu up. Lin Yu wished that she had simply never come here. Just like that, she did not even dare to lift her head to look at them and kept her head down bitterly. Lin Yukai could not say anything but, safety comes first, safety comes first. It's good to be more strict. It's a good thing. Lin Yukai helped Lin Yu up and looked at Lin Che. It was difficult for him to say anything else. He could only secretly curse at her in his heart. This little hussy was really getting more and more impudent. Sure enough, she was a traitor. Now, she did not even care about them anymore. Lin Yukai smiled and said, then, since there's nothing further to discuss, and we also feel at ease knowing that Lin Che is living very well here, we won't disturb President Gu any longer either. We'll leave first. Gu Jingze smiled and said, all right. Lin Che and I still have something else going on. We won't make the two of you stay either. In the end, Lin Yukai glanced venomously at Lin Che before turning around and simply leaving. When they arrived outside, Lin Yu shrugged off her father's hand. Seriously, it's all your fault for making me come. Look at what happened. Lin Yukai felt resentful towards her for failing to meet his expectations as well. That's enough. It was you who didn't seize the opportunity properly. But did you see any signs? If a man is interested in you, even if he doesn't get fresh with you, you can still tell. You're still saying that? I think he simply can't do it. He didn't even glance at me. Humph. You child, how's it possible that he can't do it? He and Lin Che, quote. Lin Che, how can I be worse than her? There must be something wrong with Gu Jingze. Otherwise, how could he have taken a fancy to Lin Che and not me? She turned her head to look at this tall, huge place. When she just thought of Lin Che living inside, she could not control her anger. But what else could she do when this Gu Jingze was so indifferent? Inside. When she saw her father finally leave, Lin Che said furiously, they're really too devoid of any sense of shame. Gu Jingze said, all right. They've already left. You just leave them be too. Lin Che only felt very embarrassed at having held up Gu Jingze's time. I'm sorry that I still needed you to deal with this. Next time, you should tell me in advance. Gu Jingze tapped her nose lightly. With your intelligence, you definitely can't deal with these things. It's still better for me to deal with them.